What is up, everyone? Aeneas here. It's time for the top 5 new brews for MTG1. Phyrexial will be one. We're starting off strong with Dimir, my favorite color. Dimir Proliferate. So this is a deck focused on toxic, giving the opponent toxic counters, poison counters, and then proliferating to increase how many counters they have and just slowly winning the game from there. So if you're not familiar with poison, basically it's an alternative win con, and whenever the opponent or somebody gets to 10 poison counters, then they lose the game. And so there's some advantages to poison over typical like killing people with damage and life and stuff. The advantage is that a lot of times, the opponent might have some life gain in their deck, which could make it hard to just kill them straight out. Or, since we're doing proliferate kind of things, maybe they have a lot of removal and they can just keep killing your creatures or something like that. So you can not swing in for damage in a normal deck. But if they already have a poison counter and you're proliferating, then you don't have to worry about that, right? So yeah, it's just a different way to win the game, and it's in the past it was very powerful, so we'll see if it's good again in the set. And looking at the cards in the new set for proliferate and toxic and things like that, there seemed like there were various different ways you could build the deck. You could go very low to the ground aggro style deck, you could go more of like a mid-range version with more control stuff, or you could just go straight up no creatures, full control, Dimir, proliferate kind of thing. I think there's probably even another version with rats that I might build a deck for. So we'll see about that one. But yeah, so those are kind of different ways you could do it. I went with the more aggressive low to the ground version just because I feel like it will be more consistent and more lethal. Though I do love control, so I may end up trying to build a control version as well. But anyway, let's get into it and talk about some of the key cards that make this deck work. So the first of all, we have this one drop, this very crucial one drop, Bilious Skull Dweller. It's a 1 mana 1/1 black creature with Death Touch and Toxic 1. So Death Touch means they don't want to block it because it's going to trade up. However, it has Toxic 1, so they kind of need to block it or they get poison counters. And depending on if you go first or not, it's a 1-drop, so you might be able to swing in, get a poison counter on them pretty early in the game. So yeah, both of those are pretty nice advantages, and at worst, it plays defense and they can't swing in because you'll trade for the creature. Yeah, so win-win on that one. We also got Blightbelly Rat. It's a 2-mana 2/2 with Toxic 1. This one's a little bit weaker, but it has the effect that when it dies, you proliferate, and we have a lot of proliferate synergies in the deck. And also, of course, if we give them poison counters, then we want to proliferate their poison counters. So they may also not want to kill this because we'll be giving them poison counters. So yeah, so that's kind of the advantage of this creature and why that one's there. We also have Venser Corpse Puppet. This is one of the really solid Dimir cards in the new set. It's a blue and a black for a 1/3 lifelink toxic 1, and whenever you proliferate, you choose one. Let me zoom in a little so you can see that easier. Sorry. So when you proliferate, you choose one. Basically, it says you can create a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Golem. That's legendary, and you can only cast it if you don't already have the golem on the battlefield. So that's the catch. The second ability says when you proliferate, target artifact creature you control gains flying and lifelink until end of turn. Okay, so it's a 1/3 so body, good for blocking little creatures or tokens or things like that. It has lifelink and toxic 1. So if they're tapped out or if you've killed other creatures, you can still swing in and give them poison counters. But the main thing we want is the proliferate ability. So just keep creating these tokens, using the tokens to block the opponent's creatures, using the tokens to swing in and gain you some lifelink, stuff like that. And yeah, there's a lot of different little synergies with that in the deck, so we'll see those in a bit. But basically, it's a token generator that you can do stuff with the tokens, and the opponent will want to kill this guy so that you can't keep making more tokens. And then lastly, we got Voidwing Hybrid. It's another blue-black creature, 2/1, flying, toxic 1. When you proliferate, return it from your graveyard to your hand. And so, yeah, if the opponent kills this, like you're swinging in, giving them poison with evasion, so they go, okay, I gotta kill it. They kill it, and then you cast a proliferate spell, and you get it back. And it's kind of like, it's gonna be kind of like a Phoenix almost, where like, you got like 2 or 3 of these in your graveyard, and you cast a proliferate spell, and then you just get 3 cards back in your hand towards the late game. So that's gonna be sweet. Just a nice evasive creature that kind of achieves your goal, giving them poison counters, and it's annoying to deal with. Okay. So then we have a lot of spells, sorceries, and instants that go with this theme of what we got here: poison and proliferate. So Drown and Ichor, 2 mana, sorcery is the downside on this. -4/-4 until end of turn, and proliferate. So pretty solid removal, with proliferate being the key reason we're using this one instead of other spells. Turns on these 2 creatures, and will also add to your Planeswalkers counters. We also are running Impede Momentum. This is kind of a one-of that I'm trying out. I want to see how good it is. But something interesting is that now that the tap kind of cards have stun counters, proliferate will increase the stun counters. So you could potentially keep a creature stunned forever with this card, because it'll have 3 on there, and then if you proliferate every like couple turns, it's just going to keep adding more and more stun counters to it. So it seems pretty good. We'll have to see how it works out in actuality, but yeah, you can tap an annoying creature forever, and then you get a scry 1 on top of that, so that's just a little bit of a benefit. All right, and then the instance, that's kind of like the key thing in the deck. We got Annoying with Affliction. So this is a payoff for us giving them poison counters. 2 mana, exile a target creature that's 3 CMC or less, and then if you gave them 3 poison counters already, then this is just exile a creature. So very solid removal. Hopefully, like late game, you can use this to deal with the annoying big creatures like Shieldred, or I don't know, Titan of Industry, or the big angel that's a 5/5 with a shield counter or something like that. And then against aggro, you can get rid of the annoying 3-drops. So also very good for that. Okay. Bring the Ending. This is a 2 mana counter spell. It's very similar to Make Disappear, but it has an upside. So 2 mana, counter target spell unless the controller pays 2 mana. However, if you have the opponent have 3 poison counters, then this is just counter target spell. So becomes a 2 mana counter spell, basically, if they have poison counters. So I think it's very strong, and potentially you could want more of these in the deck. Maybe you want 3 or 4. It seems like in control, we were running maybe 2 Make Disappears, and in lower to the ground aggro, like tempo style deck, you might want 3 or 4. So we'll have to play around with the deck and see if 2 is the right number or not. I just thought we want to be more proactive, so that's why I only have 2. Okay, other than that, just a draw spell here that proliferates. So just finds you your cards and proliferates. This one draws you a card and puts a poison counter on the opponent. So just another way to get the poison counter on them. If they're killing all your creatures and you're having a hard time, then you have at least one spell that will give them the initial poison counter before you proliferate. And then these last 2 kind of one-ofs, just to try them out. Serum Snare, 2 mana, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So it can be the opponent, or it can be your stuff to protect your creatures or planeswalkers. And then if it's 3 or less, then proliferate. And all our stuff is 3 CMC or less, so if you use it on your own stuff, you're always going to get the proliferate. I also thought you might want it against like some big creature. Maybe you're almost to the number of poison counters you need, so you could bounce like the really big creature that's blocking you, or something that's hard to kill. All right, and then lastly, Whisper of the Dross. This is another trial card, trying it out. Against aggro, it seems pretty decent. There's a lot of one toughness creatures in the Azorius deck and in the mono red deck. Like Theldon, you got Thalia, you got um, there's like the one drop that's a 2/1 that in soldiers, and there's a few other one toughness creatures. So Phoenix Chick. So anyway, so it should hit some creatures. You can also use it as like a combat trick to, you know, make the opponent's creature weaker, and you can trade effectively. But the main thing, the key thing I thought about this card is having a 1 mana proliferate spell could be very useful in like certain situations. So maybe the opponent's swinging in, you have your Venser on the battlefield, you have 1 mana open, they swing in, you cast this, you create a golem, you blow them out in the combat, right? Because you block with the golem, and maybe you killed like a Thalia as well or something. I don't know, but anyway, just those kind of situations could happen. Um, Even if you like, maybe you play Venser on turn 3, you already have a Voidwing in your graveyard because they killed it last turn, and then you cast this, you get a golem, and you get your hybrid back. Yeah, seems like there could be scenarios where you want it, so I thought it's worth trying it out, see how it works. All right, the only thing I didn't talk about are the Planeswalkers. Liliana actually synergizes really well with this deck because the plus ability discards a card for both players, and you don't really mind discarding your Voidwing hybrid because you can get it back pretty easily. So that's like a nice synergy there. Sacrificing a creature could be really helpful in certain situations. And the fact that you're proliferating means even if you do the -2, there's a good chance you can get her to -2 again on the next turn. And then you could do it again if you want to. And you don't have to like +1 and wait and stuff like that. Also, if the opponent's not really bothering you, you can very quickly get to the 6 loyalty counters because you'll be proliferating her loyalty up. So potentially an alternative win con there. And then we also got Kaito. A lot of our creatures have evasion, like this one has flying. These golems can have flying. This one has death touch, so they don't want to block it. So because of that, I thought Kaito makes a lot of sense. You swing in, they don't want to block it or they can't block it, and you draw a card for free. Yeah, that's about it. I don't really think the ult's going to come into play very often with Kaito. It's mostly just for drawing you cards, and you can proliferate it so it doesn't die. All right, the last thing to talk about, lands. So we got some interesting lands. We got a blast zone in here because it comes in with a counter. We're proliferating. Potentially you could get it up to like 3 or 4 counters on it for free. And then all your creatures are 2 CMC or less, and your planeswalkers is 3. So if you can get it up to like 4, you could kill like the enemy's Sheoldred, and it's not going to kill any of your creatures, and you kind of got it for free. So seems like it might be nice to have at least one of. We're also trying hostile. So why this one? This seems like a weird include, right? Well, we do have Blightbelly Rat, which we sometimes want to sacrifice to get the proliferate trigger. So that's one benefit. We get the golems, which we don't mind sacrificing if we have another proliferate card. So also another sack outlet we could do. And then Voidwing Hybrid, we kind of don't mind sacrificing either because we can get it back with Proliferate. So that's about 12 things that we could be okay with sacrificing for this. And then once you sacrifice it, it puts a soul counter on this card, on this land. It's a land, remember that, it's a land. You put a soul counter on it, and then if it has 3 or more, you transform it into a giant 3/7 with like a pretty nice ability. Ability is whenever you attack, you can exile a creature from the graveyard, and you deal X life and gain X life, where X is the number of creatures you exiled. So each turn, it's going to deal 1 and drain you for 1, and then next turn, drain for 2, and then 3. So if you can swing in it a few times, it's going to quickly close out the game and gain you life. But I don't really think you're going to win that way most of the time. Probably it's mostly just going to be a giant 3/7 creature you got for basically free. So yeah, I think it's a nice include to make the deck a little bit stronger. And the kind of cool thing is with Blight Belly Rat, you could stack your triggers correctly so that you kill the creature, it gets the soul counter on here, and then the Proliferate trigger goes off, and then you'll be already be at 2 soul counters, and you just need 1 more Proliferate spell to flip this thing. So you could potentially do this. I guess you could do it as early as turn 3. Is flip this into a 3/7 on turn 3. So 3/7, turn 3. Sounds pretty good to me. So yeah, that's why it's in the deck. We'll see how it works out, but seems interesting. All right. So that's it for the deck. Let me know what you think. Do you think this slow to the ground version is better, or maybe the more control-y version? What other decks are you looking forward to trying out in the new set, or what other archetypes look cool to you? Let me know what you think. But I'm really hyped for this. I think the Toxic Proliferate stuff is very cool. I love when Dimir is not just like mono blue with some random removal. I like it where it's like you've got cool abilities that relate to either the graveyard or stealing the opponent's cards, or just some cool synergies going on with the blue-black creatures. That's what I love in Dimir. So love to see that it's coming back, and we got some nice Planeswalkers as well. Yeah, so I'm really excited. We'll probably make another Dimir deck a little bit later. So stay tuned for that and the other top 5 new brews for MTG1. But until next time, see ya.